Good afternoon, everyone. And today we're talking about entrepreneurship as prevention. So, floating that idea that small business owners, entrepreneurs are more resilient to, things like becoming unhoused or developing issues with substances. Part of the reason, of course, is that having that steady paycheck, knowing where, your money's coming from. Even when you have a job, it's kind of like, am I actually going to be getting paid for how long? Like, how long am I going to, be employed? And as a business owner, you hopefully get yourself to a point where you can see all the projections and you've got this reoccurring revenue stream, and you know what's going to happen. You know what's coming down the line, and if anything happens in your own personal life, you can react to it using resources from the business kind of thing. And part of that also is the theory that business owners and entrepreneurs have like a mission or a purpose in their life. Not saying that other people don't, of course, but I would say that there's a tendency to find that within that population of people. And so by looking at that and how it does more than just putting food on the table, all that there's a resiliency within communities by having more small business owners. And the middle America used to be comprised of these small business owners, thanks to the veterans returning from World War II. There was a huge boom where it was like 50% of folks returning from World War II started their own business. Now it's down. It has, veteran entrepreneurship has decreased steadily over the years, and now only 5% actually go on to, start their own business, which is ridiculous. So looking at that issue of just, veteran entrepreneurship and tracking that, 200,000 service members, just the service members, not counting dependents or spouses, transition out of the military every year, a little over 200,000. And that, and 25% say, hey, I'm interested in this stuff. All right. So 1/4 of 200,000 is 50,000. Folks saying, hey, that sounds interesting. Let me check that out. Then only 5%. So what is that, 10,000 at the end of the day? That's not a lot. Why? Where is that attrition? That's 40,000 plus people who could provide for their families and uh, make their communities more resilient. I I do believe that once we saw the gutting of middle America and that transfer of wealth, we of course start seeing more and more problems related to this stuff because folks don't have security in their lives anymore. They're beholden to someone else or something else that might not have their best interest in mind. Kind of is what it is, but we do need to make a stronger effort over on the side of ensuring that these folks that are transitioning out of the military have the resources available to them. As the ambassador for IVMF Bunker Labs here in Jacksonville, my original kind of idea for my leadership project was trying to get this entrepreneurship support inserted as wraparound services in downtown Jacksonville, but the space, it's not ready yet. They're still looking at getting that secured, built out, and moving forward. And so now, in the meantime, it's having to shift and look at my local ecosystem, what's going on in Jacksonville, what can I do to help. And from where I sit, I see an increase in events that need to happen. Half of service members report feeling disconnected from society after returning or transitioning out of service. So, 100,000 folks, again, at a minimum, feeling disconnected. And veterans are, a little kind of predisposition to entrepreneurship. Looking at the numbers, we compose of like 7% of the general population, but as small business owners, it's more like 13 to 14%, somewhere around there. So it's like we're attracted to whatever it is about entrepreneurship, and we're actually also statistically more successful at it for whatever reason. As part of what I'm doing with this ecosystem leadership project and increasing events, I reached out to someone who had run and has experience running event spaces. I was thinking, hey, we can link up and get a monthly event going. Unfortunately, they no longer have their own space. They're pointing me to other places, but that is something that people are going to encounter when trying to do more, is the disconnected pieces and having to put them all together. Because like as an ecosystem, Jacksonville and Duval County is doing quite well. Looking at the statistics and the numbers, veterans are doing a little bit better on average than the rest of the folks in Florida or the nation in general. Just slightly better unemployment numbers and mean salary numbers, which freaking amazing and not too surprising given the abundance of resources, not just in Jacksonville, but in Florida. And Florida, or Jacksonville, is like the fourth fastest growing city in the US, and it is one of the top cities in the US to start or grow a business, all ranked. So given this environment of all these veterans, all of these transitioning folks, and all of that, and these feelings of isolation, not just on the veteran side, but as business owners, they're some lonely folk in a lot of regards. Well, I believe that if there are more events that connect the transitioning members, the veterans, with other folks, just civilian populations, that addresses a lot of these issues and gets people connected, talking. Problems get solved when you throw a bunch of people into a room. Problems start getting solved, and they might not be like individually the most earth-shattering or problems, but together, collectively, it's a lot of issues that can be solved at a local level through these events. And that's what my focus is going to continue to be here in Jacksonville. I'm hoping that I can create something that can be stamped out, modeled in other areas to help more transitioning folks, more veterans that are out there. We're all over the country, and there's more that can be done, across the board, especially within this mental health sphere. If you're looking at um, substance use, that's mental health. There's a mental health aspect to being unhoused and needing support while you're kind of in transit. Looking over here at endhomelessness.org, they put out like an annual state of homelessness. Looking at the 2024 edition, some current facts. One, response systems work effectively. Yeah, that is true. Converse to that, the systems, they add more temporary and permanent beds every year, but it's not enough to provide for everyone. January of last year, record high of over 500,000 people experiencing homelessness. And this number does not state whether or not it was sheltered or unsheltered. There, of course, there's a difference. Like who's got a bed, who doesn't. But regardless, it is an increase, and it's been an increase. We've been able to, in the past, target approaches, increasing programs, and the numbers were going down. We're getting a handle on it. Pandemic comes along, other things come along that exacerbate situations, and all the traction, all the ground that was gained is gone. That's depressing as hell, Of course, not to focus on any of that too much. Trying to cherry pick out some, some numbers that might provide a little bit of hope. But even down here, backward movement. So between veterans and chronically homeless individuals, 7 and 12% increase. So a 7% increase for homeless folk, for veterans. I know in Jacksonville, Duval County, there's the Northeast Florida Women Veterans. They have beds in homes for up to, I think, 12 families a year, or per cycle. It's like 6 to 12 months that they're able to house families while they're in that state of transition. That's just one organization that I know of. There are more out there to help, to combat. There's is it Operation or Project Barnabas? That's small homes in Orange Park, and that's another trend that I am seeing on the veteran outreach side of things. Are these tiny home communities that are being spun up in different areas that have that need and the resources to combat it. And the idea is pretty, simple, self-explanatory. You get, 15 plus micro homes on a property that you wouldn't be able to get nearly as many on. And the veterans have their own little sort of residence and support services that wrap around and help with employment, mental health issues, and all of that stuff, and getting people to appointments and getting benefits set up and in place, which thankfully I was able to get my rating increased this year. I was at a 10% for the longest time, partly due to my misunderstanding of how those percentages worked from the VA. And so I was able to go from 10% for just is it PTSD with depression, got that increased to 50% for PTSD, anxiety, and depression, and then another 10% for the tinnitus, which that was a fun one. You know, you go into one of those hearing check centers, and the silent booths, you put on the headphones and they play the sounds, and I'd done those before, but this time it was a little bit different because I've got this ringing in my ear. It kind of comes and goes, and if I like stick my finger in my ear, it'll calm down a little bit. But there were discrepancies in the test because it's like, they send out this little ring in the headphones, and it's like, wait, am I actually hearing that, or is this like a residual from this other tone that I just heard and everything? And yeah, it's fun. Thankfully I don't have like the 100% constant ringing in my ears, but yeah, I mean, it's enough to annoy, distract, and when you're trying to focus on things, it gets to be much. But anyway, my ignorance of that prevented me from being able to increase my own access to care, because with those disability ratings, the thought is that the more disabled you are, the more support you need, and so by increasing your rating, you're able to afford those support services. And what I was getting before at 10%, it was gotten up to like $180 a month, which I mean, that'll cover a $40 massage, from the therapy school, right? And it'll subsidize my prescription medications. Not much more beyond that. Anything else would be like, yeah, out of pocket. But now it's like, okay, well, you got more to work with, so you can get more help. You can get more frequent like massage. You can go and get more mental health services. You can afford your prescriptions and all of that. The folks who get traumatized just by living life, where's their support system? Where's their kind of stipend for getting better, for recovery, for keeping things going? Yeah, it doesn't exist, and it could if they were their own successful business person, and then they say, hey, our company is going to dish out X amount a month for your well-being, and, on top of any kind of remuneration, compensation. That is another thing over here. Like, okay, well, entrepreneurship is prevention. How do you pay yourself, and what does that even look like? And you get your business model canvas put together and your business plan, and say you're a service-based business. It could be consulting or something like that, which as a veteran, you could be in a position to offer consulting to companies or organizations. So that's totally not out of the realm as being a thing of like a transitioning person being like, yeah, I'm going to do consulting now, and I'm going to charge $150 an hour. Cool. Some back of the napkin math, and you're going to need to have more than 10 hours of billable work every month to start paying yourself a living wage. For me, I said, okay, 25 an hour, like 48,000 a year. That's low for a business owner, according to people that I talk to. But I'm like, well, you know what? This is what my business can sustain right now, so that's what we're going to go with. And that 48,000 a year, that's 4,000 a month. And so the company spends 4,300 a month for, because of taxes and all that other kind of stuff that goes into that. And then I myself see that 3,300 a month. I don't have to pay myself, health insurance, like from a company perspective, don't have to subsidize that or pay for that on my side because, disabled veteran, I've got that through the VA. And so that 4,300 as a company cost would most likely go up to at least 4,500, at least, 4,600. Then those numbers changed, and where you thought, okay, well, I only needed 10 hours a week to do a living wage. Oh, well, actually, it's like 15 hours a week or what have you. And then what does that look like from, an operation perspective? Can I sustain this through my own efforts? Do I have to hire someone? Oh, again, because of, the cost to pay someone is greater than you might consider. Again, what do those numbers look like, etc. They're all workable, they're doable, and it's not to say, hey, don't go into business for yourself, you'll never make it, look at all this, it's so difficult. No. You absolutely can look at it like a viable path, viable opportunity. There are many companies out there. Looking at some other numbers, I didn't look at, I don't want Forbes. Okay, we'll go ahead and look at this HubSpot stuff. 65% of small businesses in the US are profitable. That's not that bad, actually. If you think of the stat of like most businesses don't make it to a 10-year mark. They just don't. And part of that, if you're not profitable, you're not going to be staying in business. And if any kind of, like shocks to the system, COVID, etc., if you're not structured and set up all good, then yeah, you're probably not going to make it. Only 21% of entrepreneurs say that they were started their business because they were passionate about a business idea. That sounds low. So I think you can, read most of this. Only 8% of entrepreneurs have ever regretted starting a business. Well, that's a nice little silver lining in all of this. Only 8%. So if 65% are profitable and only 8% are saying that, there's some regrets involved, then yeah, just do it, because even at the end of the day, if your business isn't fully profitable, you're not going to be regretting it. So you might as well go for it. Take, like, shoot for the moon type of thing and land amongst the stars. So a little over half saying they did so because of inflation. Like, Was that because, I mean, that's sort of one reason why I started mine, is because of inflation and understanding like what what happens when people can't have like the lock boxes or locking bags, and there's more stuff out there. Kids get into it, cycle continues. We can stop it, but because of the inflation, it was becoming unaffordable for these organizations to buy it in bulk to give it away. That's a big problem. That okay, so start a company. I'm passionate about people being able to live their lives and you know get through childhood relatively unscathed. As somebody that did have troubles growing up, if I can make things better for others, absolutely. And yeah, so started because of that passion, but all this inflation and looking at it and being like, okay, does it have to look like this? Do things have to be priced this way? Can we maybe hit reset on, you know, some part of the supply chain to make sure that this stuff is out there affordably? I do get from an economic standpoint that inflation is a thing and it happens and all of that, but I'm quite positive that there are many among us who can say that what we have seen over the last 4 years has not been normal inflation. We can even go back more than the last 4 years. The shrinkflation has been happening for a while now, and that's where companies put less in their products, make smaller products, continue to charge the same, if not more, and thereby padding their bottom lines, all of that, and then cutting a check for some CEO that has stuck around for maybe a year or two, if that, and then they're off to go and gut some other company to show maybe some sort of profits. That's a cycle that just bothers me on so many levels. That's not entrepreneurship. That is not business. That's crony capitalism. That's stealing from the workers. Really, at the end of the day, you got some mega core. You got like 10 people on top, just simplifying numbers, and like 1,000 people in a factory, right? Well, those 1,000 people, those are the ones generate with the labor, generating the revenue and all of that. And the 10 people are taught, they're needed in some fashion to you know keep things moving forward, and visions and all of that kind of stuff. But they're not entitled to like the lion's share of the work or the profits from the labor, but it's still taken from the workers. Anyway, as a small business owner, you can prevent that from happening, and you can pay your people a living wage, and take care of all that kind of stuff. Take care of your people as leaders do. Let's skim through some more of these like entrepreneurship statistics from HubSpot real quick. And we'll see what we find. There's like 70 something here. Two-thirds want to hire employees with AI experience in the next year. Like, okay, well, what is that? Is that just like, hey, Chat GPT, give me some product descriptions or something? Like how much AI experience is? Yeah, okay, whatever. Uh, Average entrepreneur is in their mid 30s, and that's so your average entrepreneur is getting younger. Millennial ownership is up 27%. Older folks have seen a drop in representation, which, as folks, shift out of the workforce and everything else, and start looking at those later stages in life, that makes sense. Gen Zers are expressing interests than any other generation, so that's going up. Cool, that's great. Get a bunch of these, Gen Z military folks that are going to be transitioning out here involved. It's good. Almost 2 million American businesses are veteran owned. That's a nice number. Jesus. 80% white Caucasian, 6% black, 5% Hispanic Latinx, 3% Asian, 7% other, no answer. Wow. Didn't realize like this statistic was so skewed towards us white folks. So I definitely would say that more needs to be done to elevate minorities in that. Part of that, there are programs, to assist with that. There are programs for minorities. One of those is Bunker Labs Breaking Barriers. That is a program for minorities to get access to those resources for starting and growing their own business. Late last year, I heard a stat on NPR of all places, and it was talking about access to capital and what's been happening and how the taps got shut off last year. And access to capital is one of those biggest barriers for even starting a business, being able to get that food truck or whatever equipment that you need to be able to go out there to generate that revenue. Historically, whites get it more. There was, for like the briefest moment, a slight uptick in black business owners receiving that funding. And just as quick as it showed up, it was gone. And unless we look at this and we identify and say, hey, this is an area that needs to be addressed, we're going to continue going through the cycles of erosion in our cities as businesses grow and then collapse because there's not enough involvement support at the community at all levels. Because if it's just the white folks out there doing their business stuff and everyone else that is a minority, even then the statistics of a population don't represent what we see here on the screen. It's not like 80% of folks in Duval County are white, which let's demographics for Duval County Census Bureau. Let's just try to pull up real quick what that looks like. Slow. Race and ethnicity. Do they give us a percentage layout? Okay. 514,000 white. So we'll say 300,000 Black or African American, 100,000 Hispanic or Latino. So that's 400,000 right there. So you can see, like, as far as like demographics go, disproportionately white business owners. More should be done to elevate the other people that are around us and in our communities. Because yeah, right? Like, it just makes sense. Our communities aren't just one, one race, one color, whatever. I can see why a lot more folks are becoming disenfranchised with everything if this is what it looks like, and if more folks that are given this opportunity in life, like, hey, you could go do this, but that individual does not look out at the landscape and see themselves represented there, they're going to say, yeah, well, not for me. Yes, it is. It is for you. You could absolutely go and start and grow your business. I've met plenty of successful people of color. They're out there, but not enough, in my opinion. So leaving with this, get on a flight tomorrow to go to Syracuse, for the final fly-in with Bunker Labs. I'll be pitching my idea for this entrepreneurship project or ecosystem project here. So I'll be out for all that. And next week, I'm hoping to come back in with a bit more energy, a bit more insight into everything. So thank